Ash Ketchum, and you're listening to Silph Radio. Briana's awesome.
This is Silph Radio, a Pokemon-centered podcast. Every episode of Silph Radio, we look at a different corner of the Pokemon universe and pay way too much attention to it. This is not an official production. This has nothing to do with Game Freak, Nintendo, Creatures Inc., or any of those companies. This is a secret room multimedia production created by and for fans, and is not intended for children. I don't really care if, especially smart and mild-mannered children listen, but I feel like that's irresponsible to say. Anyway, I'm your host, Nathan K., and back with me today,
Briana Joy, hey, all the way from Florida.
Welcome back. It's good to have you back, post 50.
It's good to be back, and we are at 50 already. Oh my god, that's crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
So I have to say, the last 2 months have been like the most incredible parts of my life ever. I got to do something like insane. I actually met Veronica Taylor. My inner 7-year-old is like screaming right now because she is my hero. Those of you who don't know, and shame on you for not knowing this, she is the original voice who played Ash Ketchum in the Pokemon series, which you all know I'm like obsessed with, and I defend him in every episode. If you didn't know that, I love Ash. Not gonna lie, he's my favorite. So when I met her, she was so incredibly sweet. She was like, she's really short in person. She's my height and like just the sweetest woman you could ever meet. And I actually almost cried.
Well, every time I hear Ash introduce my podcast, I almost cry. So I understand.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Thank you.
So it's funny because I asked her a few questions and, here I thought the voice actors from the show would like get together and party on the weekend. But like they actually never really met. So
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy because like we were talking and she was saying how like when they go to work, they have like this tiny little recording studio and they record their lines separately. She was mentioning there was a convention she went to and I guess there was someone else from Sailor Moon, another show she worked on there, and she was like, oh my god, hey, we work on the same show. Like they don't talk. Like that's crazy to me because like I was like they're so close in the show and it's like mind-blowing that they like didn't really hang out or know each other.
Yeah, I mean, I was aware that most animated shows, there are some that are notably the exceptions and they're usually very good shows where the voice actors will do table reads together, but I feel like with Pokemon, though, I guess it does make sense, but I never really thought about it. It's hard to think about those voice actors not knowing each other. But it is a show that's imported from Japan where some company buys it and sells it to another company, and they hire people to like rewrite the scripts and then read the lines in the script. And most animated shows or movies are done with the actors isolated alone in a vocal booth, and maybe in movies especially they probably do have a lot of table reads, but that's crazy.
It just sounds so sad. Like it's so sad to me because like I always thought it was this way, but she really is a humble person.
Well, they gotta like meet at conventions nowadays and go party, right? We can at least
exactly.
hold on to that hope.
We were talking and she was saying that she gets nervous, when she meets fans because she's always worried she's not going to be enough for them. And I'm like, oh my God, but you're so much more. And like when I was talking to her, I was like, I work Disney, and you were such a huge part of my childhood. And I just kept thanking her and thanking her. And she listened to every word I said. And as soon as I said I was a photographer, she said to me, she's like, "Oh, so you work on Main Street?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, she knows what Main Street is. Oh my God." Like, I was fangirling so hard. And she's like, "What you do is very hard work. You guys do hard work there." And that like meant a lot, that like someone cared, about her fans so much. And I got a picture with her, and I had her hold my stuffed Squirtle. And so, and another question I asked her was something we were all wondering about, what her thoughts were on the relationship between Professor Oak and Delia, Ash's mom, a character she voiced, to see, like, did she think there was something going on there? And she was like, "Well, I never really thought about it like that, but like, it's like," and she actually said this, and it was like, wow, I can't believe people think this, but she's like, "I'd rather have that than her and Mr. Mime." And I'm like, oh my God,
Oh, wow.
like, people say that and you're like aware of it? That is so crazy. And then she was kind of joking. She's like, "But it would be nice to have a man to just like cook and clean and not say anything." And she was,
Whoa.
oh my God, it was great. And then she actually did like a back and forth.
That's because she's never met the voice actor for Mr. Mime, because if she did, then she would know that he goes, "Mime, mime, 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 mime." And she's like, "This is not what I fucking expected at all."
And she actually did a back and forth with Ash and Delia's voices. Oh my God. I wish I would have recorded it. It was so funny. But basically it was like, Mom, you and I'm trying to do like Nathan's Ash impression right now. It's actually kind of funny. It's the first time. "Oh, Mom, so you and Professor Oak sure spend a lot of time together." And, she goes into Delia's voice and it's like, "Oh, well, you're never home, so..."
Wow, you're really
so
good at
funny.
that. You're really good at both of those voices.
Oh my God, really? Oh, I've been sick, so like maybe that has something to do with it. It was really great to just hear her talk about that, because like I felt weird asking the question, but she just was so sweet with her response. It was crazy. But basically, like, what her answer was that it wouldn't be fair to Ash because, Professor Oak has Gary, and, like, his mother wouldn't want that for him. And,
what? For Oak and... So wait, that it wouldn't be fair to Ash if Oak and Delia were in a relationship?
Because of Gary, yeah.
I don't
Gary
understand.
Is his grandson.
Why? So then Gary would be Ash's stepson? How does that work?
Whoa, I didn't even think of that. That's fucking crazy.
Right? How does that work if you marry... What is his relationship to Gary then? I'm not going to call you Dad, Ash.
Oh my God, that's crazy. But like, bless her for like taking my question seriously. And I'm so happy I got like an answer that I'm like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. Thanks for clarifying that for me.
And that's why they're always keeping it a secret, because Delia thinks it wouldn't be fair to Ash. But then as we've established, for Oak, it's sort of like all hinges on the fact that she's Ash's mom. So.
Right. Well, I think it's funny that she actually herself didn't really think about it until like I brought it up, and she's like, "Oh, you're right. They do spend a lot of time together." And I'm like, oh my God, I just like blew her mind in like the worst way. Like, this is crazy. So just, oh my God, it was such an incredible experience. But I had to be that person. I totally got an autograph from her, and I got a picture with her, and it was just such a good experience. And at the end, I was like, "Can I give you a hug?" And she's like, "Of course." And I got to hug her, and I told her, "If you're ever in Disney, come say hi." And she said she would remember me. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm done. Like, nothing else in my life matters. Like, my life is complete. So that was my experience with the best person ever. So there you go.
That's awesome. Who does she speak? Just Ash and Delia? Does she voice any other characters?
She also does May in the advanced series. She does Diglett.
Diglett?
Just like a few. Yeah, dig a dig, dig a dig. That was really bad. Wow, I'm so sorry. Like, to all of our listeners, holy shit, that was horrible.
It's okay.
She does Diglett.
I don't think they're that offended.
That is my first. Actually, I think that's my first ever recorded Pokemon impression. So.
No, you definitely did Squirtle.
Oh, I fucking did. You're right. Never mind. That was my second one, and still just as bad. Okay, cool. So I know not to quit my day job.
So I only have one question then. Why didn't you ask her to introduce the podcast in Diglett's voice?
Oh, I could have.
Diglett, Silph Radio, Diglett.
I would have taken anything. Like, she could have literally said Silph Radio sucks in Ash's voice, and we still would have used it. So,
Yeah.
You do talk enough about Ash where I was actually considering that, because that would be hilarious. But bless her for that.
Hey,
like, oh,
fuck you, Nathan. I heard what you said, you fucking asshole.
I think I'd have to pay her for that one.
You're the exception to the rule. I hope you do give up on your dreams. You prick. Well, someone who definitely didn't give up on their dreams and pursued the career that, well, I guess that their family had laid out before them is our topic for today. That was the weirdest segue I've ever done.
Fuck yeah, it was.
Today we're talking about Officer Jenny, or Junsar, as she's known in Japan. Junsa means police in Japan. Junsar is her name. Well, she's Officer Rocky in Germany and Agent Mara in Spanish.
Damn.
Yogyong in Korean, which translates to female police. So her name is literally female police in Korean.
Can you imagine calling 911? Female police, I need help.
Damn it, Lil Wayne, stop calling us.
Oh,
police. Get what I did there? Police.
We're getting off to a wonderful start already. This is going to be a very interesting podcast.
I'm sure everybody's pretty familiar with Officer Jenny. I hope I don't keep saying Nurse Jenny in this episode. It's an unforgivable offense. She would totally have me booked overnight for that. Well, I guess it depends on which Officer Jenny we were talking about. She's, as you probably already know, a police officer, and I feel like the different Officer Jennys, they're all different. Like, whereas the Nurse Joys are kind of mostly uniform, I feel like, well, much like police officers, the Officer Jennys are all different. Some of them are like excessively aggressive. Some of them are really noble and awesome. Some of them are incompetent.
It's funny that you say, like, aggressive Jenny, though, because, like, if you look back to the first episodes, like, that is, like, the first Jenny Ash meets. She's like, I'm going to arrest your ass because you're just, like, walking around with this injured Pokemon. Like, you look hella shifty. So...
And then she notices he has a Pokedex. That happens in the Electric Tail Pikachu manga, too. He's chasing the Pikachu through Viridian City. It's not his. And they're like, you got to take better care of your Pokemon. Don't just let him run around or something. I don't know. Something like that. Yeah. She is interesting. She's mainly an anime character. She only ever appears in the yellow version of the games, replacing the male officer in Cerulean City, as well as giving you a Squirtle in Vermilion City. Your favorite Pokemon. Well, who's your favorite, Squirtle or Suicune?
Oh, God. See, it's tough. Like, if I had a daily companion, it would be a Squirtle. Like, if I wanted to be a badass, it would be a Suicune. So, like, I'm going to say Squirtle, because, like, you know, I have the tattoo of a Squirtle, so, like, that kind of has to be my favorite by default. I fucking love that turtle so much.
Well, you can get one from Officer Jenny in Vermilion City in the yellow version. But the canonicity of the yellow games is sort of debatable. As I've said before, me and Justin have argued this, because Jesse and James also appear in the yellow version. And a part of me wants to consider that game canon, whereas some people say, well, that's just a game version of the anime. It's not canon to the Journey of Red. But with it becoming clear that there's all these, like, infinite pocket universes of Pokemon, I don't see why there isn't a pocket universe then where Red got Pikachu and met Officer Jenny.
Right. I mean, it could be plausible.
Yeah, and then the Red version's the universe where he gets Bulbasaur and then faces Charizard as the head boss of the game, because that's who Blue picks, Gary. And that's why Charizard's on the cover of Red version, even though he gets Bulbasaur.
Hey guys, Nathan from the future here. I just wanted to pop in and comment real quick on my postulation that Bulbasaur was the Pokemon which Red chooses in the universe which the Pokemon Red version represents. I guess that doesn't exactly hold up because it just occurred to me as I was editing. On the title screen, you see Charmander standing next to Red. at the very beginning, which would hint that Red chooses Charmander in that version and then chooses Squirtle in the blue version, and I guess it's probably Bulbasaur in the green version, although I'm not as familiar with it since it didn't come out in America. I still like the idea of Red choosing Bulbasaur.
So you were saying about what we're actually talking about.
Officer Jenny. So I kind of have this theory that she was intended to be in the games because there's really old art by Ken Sugimori, the guy who pretty much designs all the Pokemon and major characters. It comes from an era when there was pretty much just art of Red and different Pokemon. There was no Ash Ketchum. There was no, none of the anime ideas of, Brock, Misty, and Ash. It was pretty much Red and Blue, or Red and Green as they would have been in Japan, Gary and Ash, but the prototype game characters. And Officer Jenny appears, she's June Sar, and it says her name, June Sar, and this is really early artwork. So I kind of feel like maybe they intended, he designed her to be a character in the game, and she got phased out really early in development, and the show, the anime, was already in development, so they just kind of went with it, and then by the time, in the future, they didn't bother ever putting her in the game because it would just seem kind of derivative, and they're more interested in being creative and making new characters for the games.
Says the people that have the same exact officers and nurses in every single town.
Well, actually, maybe that has something to do with it because there's the officer in Cerulean City, but there's also a global police agent on the SSN that you meet. So maybe that global agent was originally going to be Officer Jenny, and so was the officer you meet in Cerulean City. But if you the nurses, I don't think in the game they're supposed to be the same nurse. I think it's just they only have 4 or 5 different overworld sprites. And so since you don't battle the nurses, you never get a closer look at them. They're just different people in that position. But maybe since you were never going to battle Officer Jenny, because it would be you'd be a delinquent if you're constantly battling the police officers.
I know, right? Can you imagine a side storyline where you get to be a villain? And, Officer Jenny kicks your ass and you go to jail. That's how the game ends. Can you imagine?
That'd be great. Or if you could choose to be a good or bad character in a future Pokemon game, that would be amazing.
That would be really cool. I think that would... You know how there's those games that, the choices you make, affect the gameplay? They should do a Pokemon version of that. The decisions you make from day one. Instead of, I hate how they do in the games, they give you 2 options to choose from when the character asks you a question. And they're almost always positive.
And they're the same exact option. It's the same exact option phrased slightly differently.
Right. Someone asks you, what are you here for? Can you imagine, the bubble that, pops above your head? I don't know. It would just be cool if you could, type in, I'm here to fuck shit up.
Well, it would take a massive programming thing for them to, just let you say whatever you want. That's
been at this for 20 years. They have the money to do it.
You have to think if you could just say whatever you wanted and the character would naturally respond to it. That's practically artificial intelligence.
At least it's 4 options, multiple choice.
Exactly. The thing is, it's not the focus of the gameplay. But if they made it, I think it would fit right in with the gameplay and the ethos of Pokemon. With the team, the evil team that you're facing, you could either have the choice to fight them and side with the gym leaders in the league, or to team up with the evil team, and that would change which legendary you end up getting, and
or options to be a spy. That'd be kind of cool,
right? I mean, even I think that's a really great angle to take it from.
Let's be honest, though, we all want a Pokemon Sims game.
Meaning what? Just a day in the life of a Pokemon trainer?
I just want to watch a Charmander burn someone's house down. I'm sorry.
Oh, so just like The Sims, but with Pokemon.
Exactly. Like Sims Pets, but Pokemon version.
Sims.
I don't know if you've ever seen... There was this YouTube video going around forever ago with these baby Pokemon, and it's a poorly animated thing, but it was really funny.
No.
And it showed the baby Squirtle's family, and they're super cute. And then the baby Bulbasaur house, and it's super cute. And then the Charmander house is on fire.
Oops.
I want to see that shit. I want to play that shit out in The Sims. That would be so fun.
Well, that would be great. It would be great if there was just a massive, me and Andrew speculated, just massive online multiplayer game that was just so incredibly detailed that you would get to simulate those finer aspects of Pokemon training. Like, you have to learn how to control the flame on your Charmander. You can't just, that's why, as we've said before, Red or Ash is such an impressive trainer, because they can take a wide variety of Pokemon and care for them. It's not just some sappy moral like, oh, you really care for your Pokemon, that's why I'm giving you this badge. Like in the game, a lot of times they'll give you a TM because they'll be like, wow, you really care for your Pokemon. And it's like, who cares? I care for my dog, but it's not the same thing. It's like, no, you're really able to care for your Pokemon when you have, how many people could take care of in this world a tiger, a bald eagle, a sea lion? You know what I mean? Like, it would be, you'd have to have so many different types of dietary needs, climate needs, the different types of attention and care that you give them. So that's why a lot of trainers in the video games only have specific types of Pokemon, and that's why that character's so impressive. So why were we talking about that?
An episode based off of that alone, like, that would be crazy. Like, the dietary needs of each Pokemon and, like, actually training Pokemon. That'd be a good episode to do in the future.
I can see Brock, actually, if we're talking about anime Brock and not video game canon Brock, but anime Brock doing I'm not even joking. Usually when you're like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah, I'm like waiting for the punchline here. What we got?
No, I'm actually being serious. I could see Brock, like, as he wanted to become a breeder and everything, being doing like a sort of instructional video or something like that, you know, like how to care for your Pokemon.
Weird, like, off topic. Don't you find it weird that Brock wants to be a breeder and he's always hitting on girls like that? That correlates weird to me. Like, anyway,
I have a very specific set of skills. I watched a few newer episodes to prepare for this episode, and I gotta say, I don't want to disrespect any voice actors, but I do not like the newer voice for Brock. It really caught me off guard. And yeah. Eric Stewart, they need to rehire Eric Stewart. Why did they replace him with drunk Seth Rogen's little brother, who also happens to be drunk?
I don't think he was in a lot of episodes since they changed the voice actors over, because they changed the main series arc of characters shortly after the voices changed. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of Professor Oak or Brock or James, really.
James is okay, but it's not Eric Stewart. And
I know.
I'll do a better Brock and James for you guys. Hire me. I'm available. I'll just do one less podcast a month. The listeners are used to it. It's funny, though, because we mentioned that if you were fighting the police officer, you'd be a delinquent. But there were police officers in the second-gen games that you'd only face at night. They'd only be out at night walking around with their flashlights. Be like, what are you doing out?
With their Growlithe, exactly.
Yeah, and they also had, in later gens, Herdiers, Riolus, which I think really fits, Hoots, and one Pokemon besides Growlithe and Arcanine that seems to pop up all the time with police officers in the Pokemon world is Machokes and Machamps. They've been in the anime, the Ash anime, several times. They're also in Pokemon The Origin, that anime, and in the manga. So I don't know. I think that was just worth mentioning.
Even in the anime, though, like, Officer Jenny has like an array of different Pokemon partners. Like, she has a Jumpluff, a Pidgeot, a Parasect. I say she as in, like, other Jennies.
Yeah, those are like, okay, so it's weird. It's weird that she's never been seen with a Machoke or a Machamp. I definitely would have given Officer Jenny a Machoke or a Machamp if I was in charge of the anime.
Right.
Those Pokemon you listed are all like individual Jennies have them. In general, no pun intended, the Jennies have, that was horrible. I'm sorry. They have...
In general, I got you. It took me like 5 minutes. You know it's a bad pun.
Well, it's a double pun because Jenny and she's an officer. So
that's true.
An officer and a gentleman. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, me. He lost me like 10 minutes ago with that one. Anyway.
The Growlithe are apparently like standard issue throughout Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh. There's an episode where we see a canine training school where Officer Jenny's training a bunch of them. We've seen that the Officer Jennies are usually paired with one and train it since they're a puppy, which is interesting because there's also a school.
That episode, like, they like had, I don't know if you guys remember the Canine Caper episode, but like it was hilarious as a kid, like totally off topic, because they would have like this gas that would change all the characters' voices, and they all sounded really high pitched and squeaky. And I just remember laughing at that episode because it was like, the concept of the episode was so far fetched. Like Team Rocket's plot was literally to change their voices, so Growlithe would listen to the pre-recorded Jenny voice on the fucking loudspeaker that they had. Like, it was a weird concept episode, but it was really funny to me. Like, I don't know, some of the shit they come up with is just
Left field.
yeah, exactly. But like, I like it because it's like, all right, that's cool.
I think it was really left field that I guess Officer Jenny and Sinnoh had a Stunky. I don't know why Stunky.
I think honestly they were just looking for somewhere to put that Pokemon so they felt like it had a purpose, because it was a shitty design to begin with. We're like, we're just not upon people because we know it was a bad idea, but we have to sell it to these guys that pay us to design this shit. So like, we got to make this work.
And then in Unova, she had Herdier, which I get. I understand that. It's a dog. And Swanna. Why Swanna?
I don't know that either, but I can just imagine, like, I mean, at least they didn't pick, like, Trubbish to have. Like, can you imagine just Officer Jenny chasing down people, just throwing Trubbishes at them?
Yeah, with Swan, all I can think of is that scene in Hot Fuzz where the cops are called to take care of an aggressive swan. Well, swans are really aggressive. I guess that's something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess, but, like...
They're pretty, but aggressive, like Officer Jenny.
No, that's great.
In Kalos, they have Manectrix, which again, that makes sense. It's like a dog.
Yeah.
It's blue. It fits Officer Jenny's ethos, I guess. That's the word of the day, ethos. And just recently in the Alola episodes, I guess, I haven't seen any of these, but I guess Officer Jenny's teamed up with this like formerly wild Gumshoos.
Interesting.
You don't watch?
I've seen a few episodes. I'm not in love with the animation style. It was kind of heartbreaking for me to see them change that over. I don't know if it's going to be like this from now on. Like, I get the show is geared toward kids and they were trying to reinvent it, but with the animation as good as it was in the X, Y, and Z anime, it was really disheartening to see this giant plummet in quality, in my opinion. I don't know, but like actually though, the episodes, like the way they're written though, are better.
Oh.
They actually are funny. Like Meowth, like Jessie catches a Mimikyu, and Meowth actually dies in a few episodes.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
Yeah, like the writing, like is actually, the show itself is funnier, and it's actually pretty well written, and like the little snippets I've seen, it's the animation that I'm not in love with. So that's my reasoning for not really watching it.
Yeah, I guess there's like, you actually see her team up with the Pokemon. She doesn't have one initially. And then there's this wild Gumshoos that likes, it shows up in a few episodes and it helps her chase away some rascally Raticates. And she's like, I've always wanted a partner. Why don't we team up? And now she's got a Gumshoos. Gumshoos is the little Donald Trump looking like weasel.
I'm pretty sure he was their inspiration for that.
For the Gumshoos, it looks a lot like Donald Trump.
Yeah, I would have to say he was modeled after him. Because, like, there's a lot of Pokemon that are modeled after people. Like Ludicolo, like...
is modeled after a stereotype.
You picture a Mexican dude, like... You know what I mean?
But not
like,
a specific... It's not, like, modeled after...
See, like, that sounds horrible. I didn't mean to sound horrible. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're modeled after a general image of something.
So Gumshoos is just modeled after the general image of a fucking loudmouthed asshole. And it just,
something like that.
It happens to look kind of familiar.
With a toupee.
Then there was a specific Officer Jenny that had a Meganium, a Parasect, and a Tangela. We've seen Officer Jenny's with a Ghastly, a Spinarak, a Wobbuffet, a Jumpluff, a Pidgeot. I think the Pidgeot really fits.
Okay, here's my question. Is it Pidgeot or Pidgeot? Because I've heard both.
I don't know. Yeah, I think that might be like Arceus, Arceus, Arceus. That like, there's so many different
I
pronunciations.
just want someone to put a Pokemon dictionary out there so we can pronounce it the right fucking thing. That's all I want.
Well, they did with the Pokédex, but then there's still every once in a while like a contradiction. Like, well, it's pronounced like this in the show, or in
I have heard it pronounced both ways in the anime, so.
Chatot, Duosion, Ferrothorn. One of them mentioned having a Blastoise. There's there was, I guess, an episode with like this pirate gang of a Croconaw, Azumarill, Octillery, and Ducklet that were causing trouble. That they ended up teaming up with Officer Jenny, I guess.
Speaking of trouble, she also took Ash's Squirtle to help them fight fires. Apparently, Jennies are also firefighters in some episodes.
Yeah, well, originally Ash's Squirtle, as I'm sure everyone remembers, was part of the Squirtle Squad, and they were like this gang, but then they ended up fighting fires at the end or something, right? And Squirtle went to be with Ash, and later he encounters them again at some like firefighting competition, which is a thing, right? And they do so much better with Squirtle helping out back in charge that he ends up leaving Ash to stay with the Squirtle Squad and the Officer Jenny that was training them in his absence.
See, I have yet to watch that episode. I don't think I ever will because I loved Squirtle so much, like Ash's Squirtle in particular, that
it would just be too heartbreaking.
Yeah, because like Squirtle Squad was one of my favorite episodes growing up, and like I loved that fucking turtle, and I think they were just trying to write out all of Ash's Pokemon. Like, it's kind of fucked up if you think about it, because like it would basically be the equivalent of you adopting a fuck ton of dogs, and then like throughout your life, like this person looks like it needs this dog. Here you go. This person looks like this dog. Oh, this dog likes this dog. Okay, bye. Like, that's like the same equivalent. It's kind of fucked up if you think about it.
Just to make room for new breeds.
It's thanks to that people give away their pets in this day and age, apparently. So thank you, Pokemon, for that beautiful ideology that it's okay to just hand away your pets.
Oh, you think Pokemon's responsible for all the abandoned strays?
No, I'm just mad. I don't blame Pokemon for anything. I'm just saying it because I'm butthurt. That's all. Shouldn't have got rid of that Squirtle.
All right, so let's address the elephant in the room. Officer Jenny, we should have said this at the top of the episode. It's not one character. There's many different members of this family, much like Nurse Joy, who are all pretty much identical, and they all seem to be named Officer Jenny, which might be a surname like Joy because there is one named Marble in a specific episode who's very clearly a young Officer Jenny in training. And this is what the fuck. Honestly, like, what is with these families in the anime? There's four. There's three other ones: the Porters, the Don Georges, and the Joys. Like,
I don't know. It's kind of interesting because if you go into like the fan theory thing that there was like a big Pokemon war, that could play into it. Like, this is all that's left. Or it could also be just a poor choice and lack of character differences, and they're like lazy in the animation department. They're like, okay, here you go.
Okay, well, that's clearly the excuse, so they don't have to come up with a new character because Ash is traveling. He's not in one location, so to have another repeating character, But I mean, in universe, like, what is with these families? Like, is it just another odd fact about biology there? Like another one of the ways that nature is different in Pokemon than it is in the real world, that identical members of a family is just something that happens there sometimes?
It's a weird thing to think about. Like, it's crazy to me, but I just think it's funny that Brock is the only person that can tell them apart. And it's the same with Joy, too. He's the only person.
I have a very specific set of skills.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if that makes him, like, I don't know if I, like, want to say that as a positive or a negative thing.
I'm very attentive to detail.
Right, like, he sees them as individuals and not just, like, a group of people that is one person. That's, like, it's kind of fucked up in a way, but it's like a race thing. Because, like, it'd be like saying all Asian people look the same.
Except it's not, because they're, like, identical twins, so...
Yeah, exactly. So, like, how do we...
It's an extended family of identical twins, which is crazy. Like, especially one Officer Jenny says that the Officer Jenny in Viridian is her sister-in-law. So they're related through marriage? Like, what?
Like, is there like an Officer Jim, or like
happen?
I don't know what's the like the male version of Jenny?
Or are they brainwashing the police
And
force?
Officer Johnny. There's Officer Jenny and Officer Johnny.
Well,
They
there
have
are.
babies.
You see her with male officers sometimes, so maybe it is Officer Johnny. But I don't know. Maybe they're brainwashing the police force so hard that they begin to look alike. No.
Well, she does have differences in her appearance.
Brock notices the length of her eyelashes.
Oh, probably that's something fucked up he would do. But
I feel like Brock just spends a lot of time looking through their Facebook photos. Like, I can just imagine them running into Officer Jenny, and Brock's like, "Why do you look so familiar?" And Ash is like, "It's because she looks like every other Officer Jenny, Brock." And he's like, "No, you appear several times in Viridian City, Officer Jenny's summer vacay photo album, don't you?"
can you imagine Tinder in the Pokemon universe? Like, you're just swiping through, and it's like Jenny Joy, Jenny Joy, Joy Joy Jenny. Like, and
Right.
Misty's in there for some reason. Okay.
How many times do I have to swipe left?
She does actually change appearance, though, in a few regions. So in the Orange Islands, her outfit is a lighter blue. And in Unova, she's more tan-colored.
Her outfit, yeah, not her skin.
Sure. Well, yeah, exactly.
She's not more tan colored.
Oh, that's right.
That would be too much
That's what I meant.
diversity for Pokemon.
Yeah, it was more tan-colored.
No, yeah, that's interesting that she's in a tan colored as opposed to blue outfit, because I mean that would be expected that they'd wear different outfits. But her hair is also always shorter in Unova, which is like, why do they all cut their hair short in Unova?
Right, exactly. But interesting fact, though, her hair was changed to more of a greenish blue when the show became digitally animated to match Sugimori's artwork with the original, which was a more blue color. So they changed her hair color when the show switched over.
Yeah, it's like a teal. It's like a teal color in the original artwork and nowadays in the show, I guess. Which is how I've always thought about it, but maybe that's just because I'm so attached to the Sugimori designs for everything. It is really interesting. We see several different Officer Jennys. It would be pointless to try to go through them all. There's a young Officer Jenny named Marble who's like an Officer Jenny in training. Her name's Marble. She's never referred to as Jenny, but she's very clearly a part of that family. Her hair is exactly the same. She looks exactly the same, but her outfit's more like it's weird. It's almost superhero-like. She has a Lux Ray that doesn't like listen to her and just attacks without her ordering it to, or doesn't do the right attacks. But her name's Marble, so Jenny might be the family name, just like with Nurse Joy, like Marble Jenny. I mean, it makes sense.
It's weird. Like, I don't know. Like, how does that like occur in real life? Like, can you imagine going to one of their family reunions and like literally all their friends and family look exactly the same? Like that just is crazy shit to me.
Oh, Brock would love it. Brock's trying so hard to get one of those invitations. But then there's got to be like their wives or husbands like that are accompanying them to this family reunion, and they can't all clearly. Are there many families? Is it no? They say it's one extended family, but at the same time, those Nurse Jennies. I'm sorry, damn it. Those Officer Jennies were related through marriage. They were sister-in-laws. So like, unless it's incestuous, there must be more than one family.
I'm just convinced that they asexually reproduce at this point. Like, they're like mitochondria that just split off and become more Jennies. Like, that is what I'm convinced at.
Oh my god.
There is no Officer Johnny. They just reproduce on their own.
Well, let's get into some of these weird fan theories, because I don't buy into that. Well, a lot of people say that they're all either clones or robots, quote unquote, because identical cousins isn't a thing. Neither is evolution in a single organism, or cross-phylum breeding, or dogs that breathe fire, or tiny balls that can fit giant monsters in them, or children that never age. I think identical cousins is a relatively small leap compared to some of the other scientific conundrums in this series.
Let's be honest, Brock must be the chosen one because he's the only one that can tell them all apart.
He can't be the only one. Do you think that the other Officer Jenny's husbands and wives are like accidentally getting in these mishaps where they mistake their spouse for one of their relatives?
I don't even know. But if you think about it, if you look back to Brock's family, how they all look exactly alike.
Do they? Brock's family?
Pretty much. Like, his father looks just like him, and all of his brothers and sisters have the same hair and same eyes.
So maybe Brock belongs to another family like that. Oh my God.
Right.
Maybe Brock belongs to another family
that.
with that genetic curiosity where they all look the same, but they just didn't all go out and get these like careers and shit. So you don't see a bunch of Brocks everywhere.
And they all run into walls because they can't see shit.
And maybe Bruno is one of them too, because Bruno looks a lot like Brock. He just exercised more. Oh man. And that's why Brock is so attracted to them, because it has something to do with, oh wow. So usually
we just invented our own fan theory.
Yeah, no,
this is a beautiful one.
This makes sense. So in nature, generally you're attracted to people with different genetics than you, because that's the benefit of having two different sexes to reproduce sexually instead of asexually. You keep your immune system and your genetics varied by constantly changing it up, so that way viruses aren't able to just adapt and kill the entire human race, because everyone has a different immune system. And that's why you're not as attracted to somebody whose genetics are too similar to yours. And kissing them just feels off and weird, like with certain people, because
like you're kissing your sister, right?
Yeah, you want to be. Your body wants to be experiencing different pheromones, and that's why it doesn't enjoy kissing them. And the reason it wants different pheromones is because it's indicative of like a different genetic system, which is easier to fight disease. But maybe in the Pokemon universe, there's some reason that also, or maybe they've just survived, like these people that are actually attracted to people with less varied genetics, and it's not necessarily incestuous, but just people with less varied genetics. And what that has resulted in is these specific lines of families that look exactly the same, and then are more likely to be attracted to someone else who has less varied genetics. Like Brock is so obsessed with Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny.
So a fuck ton of Jennies and Joys resulted from that.
Use a different word other than fuck ton. Brock might be listening.
Yeah, he might run with that one. What do they say? Fuck a ton of Jennies and Joys. All right.
Silph Radio told me to do it.
Not appropriate, but I honestly don't give a shit, so it's fine.
Wow. No, I love that, though. I think we came to... I want to be straight up, I did not come into this episode with that theory already prepared. Like, that's developed...
We just fucking ran with it. You guys all witnessed a creation of a fan theory.
Yeah.
Right here. The secret room.
Totally developed over the course of the conversation, legitimately. But we should give some lip service to the opposing theories, because we're not trying to be a one-sided show here. Let's give the other sides some exposure. So another theory goes that Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy are actually Pokemon. And that's why they all look alike.
Wow.
This is... Okay.
Interesting.
Well, I want to use this as maybe an opportunity to espouse the benefits of skepticism, and the reason skepticism is such a great tool to have. Not just debunking, but skepticism, which means doubting when you don't have any reason not to doubt. So this to me is ridiculous. There's nothing at all to suggest this. To me, it is I guess serviceable is the best word I could use, idea, but not very serviceable idea, to explain why they all look alike. It's a clever idea, but the thing is, if this was actually true in the world of Pokemon, there would either have to be hints that the creators intended it and left other little clues that support it, or there would just have to be enough accidental evidence to support it being like acceptable headcanon. Like just creating a story that successfully fills in the blanks isn't enough. There has to be solid evidence that it's either intended or undeniable. Like, I think it's undeniable that Pokemon get turned into data, even though it's not necessarily stated that it's intended. But I think it's intended that Giovanni wanted to capture Mewtwo. So it has to be one or the other. It has to meet one or the other criteria to me of either undeniability or intendedness. And I think it's just a dumb idea with no basis. No offense.
I can just picture an episode where like Jenny or Joy just like randomly starts breathing fire, and they're like, okay. Like in the background, you can just see Jenny using a flamethrower, and like no one thinks anything of it. Like that would be that'd be an interesting time. But yeah, I definitely don't think there is anything to really go about with that theory to make it plausible. So I'm going to say no for that one.
Yeah, fan theories for the sake of fan theories are annoying to me. And I saw one guy saying that like they both evolved from Chansey, and it's like, look, I'm not trying to insult you or your work. I'm just saying it's a stretch, and I feel like it's a fan theory for the sake of a fan theory. Did you really just have a revelation where you're like, oh my God, it makes so much sense, they're Pokemon? Or is it a fan theory because other people make fan theories and maybe this could be a fan theory too? I'm not trying to sound like a condescending dick. I'm just saying, to me, that's what it sounds like to me.
It could also be too that the Pokemon or the character was designed after the other to go together. Like, for example, Chansey's design could have come from Nurse Joy or vice versa. So
I think Nurse Joy was designed to complement Chansey.
Right, like that would make sense. But for them being a Pokemon, I don't think so.
Yeah, and then gives more, if that fits with what I'm saying. See, this is where I feel like there's enough evidence to be like, this is a theory we could start working with, that like Jenny was intended to be in the game. Like, so there is no Pokemon which Jenny is modeled after because Ken Sugimori designed Jenny to be a character. He did not design Nurse Joy to be a character. The nurses Ken Sugimori drew all look different. And Nurse Joy was clearly created to be the nurse in the Pokemon anime, but it's possible Jenny was going to be a character, but then just became like Nurse Joy because they'd have specific Jennies in specific cities. The police don't travel across the entire country. That would be ridiculous. Though there are Nurse Joy, or I'm sorry, Officer Jennies that don't work in specific like local police force. There's ones that run reservations. I know there's been other ones. I just can't think of them. There's ones that fight fires. They
also judge Pokemon contests, and some of them are also detectives too. I know in the X and Y series, there was a Jenny that was undercover trying to investigate this Malamar incident and ends up getting possessed by a Malamar. And, that was a weird episode, but
that could have been awesome. She's like in this cloak and she has all these other, she like ends up, well, the Malamar possesses like Ash's Pikachu, but they think it's the nurse. They don't know it's Officer Jenny. I'm sorry, but they think it's the woman in the cloak, but then it turns out to be the Malamar controlling her and all the other Pokemon. And that could have been such a cool episode if it didn't suck so much.
Yeah, it like could have gone into like a movie even, but they just, I don't know. I just feel like because it was written for the TV show and not like a movie, I just feel like it was rushed and just kind of like, well, we're going to get Pikachu possessed again and have it fight Ash and then prove their love for each other. And once again, everything is happy. Like they've done that storyline so many times. It's great, but like you guys have been doing this for 20 years. Come on, give me something different.
I want to get your opinion as a big fan of the anime on a theory that I recently came up with Marquise. Marquise didn't like the idea, but
here we go.
I like it.
Here we go.
This one's a half joke.
What do you got?
All right, so do you remember how at the end of Pokemon the first movie, everybody learns this really important lesson about fighting? And how you shouldn't fight each other, blah, blah, blah. We all know. Everyone.
And they forgot the lesson they learned? Yeah.
Yeah, Mewtwo wipes their memory, and they forget the lesson they learned. So my theory, and then Mewtwo goes off, and he wants to, the reason he did all this was to learn more and whatnot. Like, Mewtwo was clearly trying to figure out stuff about the world. And I think the reason that Ash never is able to remember a lesson that he learns or Pokemon that he's already encountered or caught is because Mewtwo keeps showing up and wiping, like trying something out on him and then wiping his memory like he did with Nurse Joy in the movie where he wiped her memory of the last week when he was using her out at his island for a week before anyone showed up for some reason. I think he keeps secretly using Ash for purposes, either to do things or to test things on, and then wiping his memory, and it's starting to degrade Ash's memory in general.
I mean, from a humorous perspective, I could totally see that. But you know the real reason why Ash is always 10, right?
Well, what do you mean, like meta, like outside of continuity, like the creator's intentions?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
To keep it relatable with the kids now, like this day and age, you know, he can't be the best and be a master because they have to keep making money. They have to keep making shows. That's the sad reality of it. But like, that's why we have the fan theories, to make ourselves feel better about the truth.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's so tough because like that's one of the hardest things to reconcile for me in the continuity of a show is, okay, I can look at a show, for example, and be like, okay, well, The Simpsons haven't aged in 30 years. Well, maybe for somehow all these adventures, even though there's more than 365 of them and some of them take several days, maybe they somehow all take place within like 1 year. But then that's thrown out of the window because there's so many Christmas specials. And because Homer and Marge supposedly got married in like the 70s or 80 or early 80s, and yet in a later episode of The Simpsons, Homer, before they got married, Homer formed the band Nirvana in the early 90s because at this point, you know what I mean? And Lisa was originally born in the late 80s, and now Lisa is born in the early 2000s because she's only 8 years old. So like, that's really frustrating and confusing. And then sometimes you can reconcile it. Like I actually reconcile it with South Park because they reconciled why Kenny keeps dying because his parents were involved with this Cthulhu cult, like this Lovecraftian cult. And I think there's so much weird shit happening in South Park that that's the reason that time moves weirdly, because they have actually aged 2 years in South Park. And then they go back to being 9. So I think it's just that time acts weirdly, and that's why Kenny keeps being reborn and all this in South Park. But then that doesn't work with The Simpsons because there's nothing there to tell you that there's something off and weird about Springfield. Same thing with Pokemon.
They're all yellow skin, yeah.
There's nothing there to like tell you that there's some reason in universe that Ash doesn't age. It's just lazy writing.
Right. And honestly, that's the thing about growing up with this series. We are constantly trying to find reasons for the way things work. We're constantly trying to give an excuse and a reason to why things are the way they are, and thus we create the fan theories to give ourselves that closure for something that we so badly want an answer to. And I love that we do that. You know, like I would love to like have everything, like I like it when things click. That's why I like watching anime, because anime, a lot of different stories come together, and in the end, it all clicks and makes sense. Pokemon has always been one of those things that a lot of things could go one way or the other, and it never truly clicks. So I think that's why we are so fascinated with finding out the answers and creating these theories, because we want that closure. We want answers, you know?
And I think that if we apply restraint and we cast doubt on things that don't have sufficient evidence and take too big a leap from what's been established, then you eventually come to conclusions that are more satisfying. Just like that's how it works in real life as well. But for example, I think if we were quick to just accept that Officer Jenny's were all clones or robots or Pokemon, then we would have never come to this idea that I think is very satisfying, that explains why Brock is attracted to both Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, and it's a very simple idea that's a very small leap. The idea is just that genetics and nature works differently in the Pokemon world. That much has been established. We know that because it hasn't been outright stated, hey, our genetics work differently than the world of people who have a New York City and Ohio. But we have enough information, like evolution in single organisms, the fact that animals of different phylum can breed with each other, stuff like that establishes...
The fact that lizards breathe fire or turtles squirt water, things like that plants throw plants at you, like, you know,
there's a connection between the Pokemon trainer and their Pokemon, some type of mental, emotional connection. That stuff, science works slightly different here. So to say that there are just families where the similarities are so uncanny that they're practically identical twins isn't that big a leap. It's a very small leap, and it's probably what, if you really wanted to grill the creators, who probably don't care about an intention, they'd just be like, yeah, we were lazy. We just wanted to have the same voice actress for every Nurse Joy that you see. But if you really pressed them, they'd be like, yeah, it's just different there. That family just exists there. And that's how you would explain that, is the genetics. And I think that, again, it's just like in the real world. If you cast doubt on things that don't totally add up or that seem like an explanation for an explanation's sake, then you're able to find an explanation that's equally or more mind-blowing that actually makes total sense.
And that's why I love what we do. I think, in my mind, we are the next generation of Pokemon writers. I think that they are going to take notes from us and our ideas and our thoughts and our theories and put it into the show so it does work. Because they want to, I mean, they are a business. They want to make money. But I'm sure there's a part of them that would love to hear what we have to say.
Hey,
and say, oh, yeah, that would really be cool.
I don't mean to sound conceited, but I think it would be good for the company to do that. I think not just we, I mean, sure, me and you and Craig and Andrew and Antoine and all them are very committed to the franchise. And so we think up these things that are really great, and they don't need to do an anime episode that goes on to explain the genetics and immune systems of Nurse Joy. But, I mean, the Donkey Kong creators have done it. The Sonic creators have done it. They've taken, even South Park, who I just mentioned, has done it. Like, they take inspiration from the people who are obsessed with their franchise. And you have full right to do that, Nintendo. I'd rather you do that and confirm that I was right than do something which contradicts me, to be quite frank. So... all right, well, before we do close out the episode, I think we could give credence to one of the most likely of the Pokemon fan theories about Officer Jenny before, as in contrast to our own. I think maybe these ones might have really hit the nail on the head. This one comes from a creepypasta.
Oh, boy, here we go.
And suddenly the facetiousness in my tone becomes apparent. This is, I believe it was called The History of Officer Jenny. The original Jenny had not always been like this. Her kind attitude hadn't. But her deep sea-colored eyes have always been there. Those eyes scared me. They could stare through 1,000,000 souls and see through 1,000,000 lies. But that's her limit, guys. Just 1,000,000. After 1,000,000, she can't see her soul anymore.
I just feel like this is like a CSI.
If you tell her 1,000,000 lies, like, were you smoking marijuana? No, officer. Were you? Don't lie to me. I wasn't, officer. If you say it 1,000,000 times, she'll believe you. After 1,000,000. All right. And she hasn't always worked with the police either. Nobody but me knows her story, and I would rather not know it now that I do. So I'm sharing it how it should be told. Why? Why are you don't want to know? Why would you? All right. Dick move, you sadistic fuck. You sadistic fuck. Janest L was her name. To this day, I don't know what the L means. All I know about her name is that, unlike what she claims, it is not Jennifer, but Janest. And she couldn't carry on with such a unique name after her backstory passed.
She just could not carry on.
My name's too unique.
No, my name rhymes with incest.
That was, incest Janest. That was what they called her on the playground. Because her whole family looked the same, and yeah. She couldn't carry on anymore. She aimed for all but her to forget her history and took a new look and personality, claiming the other officers as her sisters. And for the most part, she succeeded. She just forgot one thing. Me.
Who is this me?
Right? I don't know. This creepypasta is really vague and confused and confusing. Janest L. As she was very different. Okay? The only thing similar about her younger look were her eyes. Seeing all and knowing all. What? Staring through you and piercing your heart. That's what comes to mind when I think about seeing Officer Jenny on the anime. I'm like, those eyes. Like, I turn into a fucking regular Barney Hill. Those eyes.
I honestly think they just copy and pasted the first paragraph and put different verbs in. Or different adjectives. Like, honestly, like, I just feel like we just reread the first paragraph. Anyway.
Brock's instructional video for writing a creepypasta. Step 1. Write a paragraph. Step 2. Copy and paste the first paragraph and change the adjectives. Now you have 2 paragraphs.
Make sure you mention your eyes.
Step 3. Sex chapter.
Step 4, profit.
This has been Brock's creepypasta writing instructions. All right. She started out in a small village with black market trade. This was her way of making money in her teen years.
I can think of a few other ways you can make money in your teen years.
Why? What she started doing was stealing things, such as artifacts from her local museum, or very sought-after and rare books from libraries, starting a hidden shop in a cave which sold stolen items and created a rumor of such a place. So black market practicers... That's right, black market practicers. It's a trainer class.
I just feel like you're making lists. Like, okay, these are the things she stole. Now let's put such as so I sound intelligent. Such as these items.
So
I'm sorry, I feel like a dick for making fun of this, but, like, I can't.
So black market practicers would let it pique their interest and buy her goods. They'd let it pique their interest.
Oh, they can buy her goods.
When she reached 20 years old, she no longer wanted to be with the black market. It had gotten old. But she realized that she could not move away from crime. She was addicted to committing crimes, and so she started pointlessly stealing items and murdering unimportant people.
Such as?
There are no unimportant people. What the fuck, dude?
There's like 20 people in the Pokemon universe. They're all important in some way. There's all 20 to choose from. None of them are unimportant.
It still was not enough to satisfy her. She hadn't been addicted to crime. Wait, you said she was addicted to crime. But addicted to committing morally wrong acts. And so she used the old cave she used to use as a shop, as a facility to create forever young versions of herself. Over and over. Wait, what?
I honestly think they were high when they wrote this.
I was probably a young child. We're making fun of a young child's writing right now. How do you feel, Briana? I hope you feel really big, Briana. You sadistic
Hey, you
fuck.
know what? It's okay. I'm going to make fun of myself for a minute. When I was 7, I wrote down that I wanted to be Mrs. Ash Ketchum. And when I was in 2nd grade, I used to write Pokemon into my own version of the Boxcar Kid stories. And, like, Ash and one of the characters, like kissed under a disco ball, and I literally drew pictures of it. So that makes me feel better for making fun of this child's writing. So there you go, guys. I admitted it. I was a weird fucking kid.
I think you're just making that story up to cover up for the fact that when they fell out of your bag last time I saw you in person, that you had just written them the week prior.
Yep, me and my 7-year-old handwriting. Yep.
Back to the creepypasta. It says that she hadn't been addicted to crime, but addicted to committing morally wrong acts. So she used the cave to start making these young clones of herself over and over. So she must have listened to our Porygon episode and been like, oh, it's immoral to duplicate a sentient being, and I like being immoral. And immortal. So I'm gonna just make clones of myself. Also, didn't they just say that she adopted the other officers as her sisters? That the other officers already existed? Now she's making clones of themselves? What? They were not sisters, but clones. And in a way, it was disturbing. Yeah, in a way, it was...
In just a slight way.
The local Pokemon hung around in the cave very often. Why? She would take females of Pokemon like Pichu, Igglybuff, and Smoochum, as they were not fully developed, and lay them on a rock before slicing them open, draining their blood and rinsing them. Okay, she'd rinse them.
Yeah.
She would then take her own blood and inject it into them. From most points on her body, including all 10 fingers, her eyes, her elbows, her shoulders, her nose, her mouth, her cheeks, her eyebrows, the roots of her hair, her feet, her knees, her thighs, her toes, her ribs, her neck, and even her privates such as her anus, vagina, and breasts, injected all into the heart of the Pokemon.
So, like, oh my god, I wish you guys could see my face, because, like, you know in Shrek, when, like, they get the small version of,
Hold on,
like...
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, because when you said in Shrek, immediately following that, my brain just shut down. It was too much grotesque to process.
Okay, so my face right now is that scene in Shrek, when they get the DreamWorks version of Small World, and then they take the picture of them afterward and the faces they make. That is my face listening to that last paragraph. What the actual fuck?
My brain, I just, like, repressed the entire, like, hour and 20 minutes of Shrek. I saw it once and was like, never again. You know what's disturbing is DreamWorks animation. I really don't like the way the humans look at all. I don't like the way they all disco dance at the end of every movie. I really don't like DreamWorks animation. It's the uncanny valley. It's what's that?
Where's the lie? Oh.
Well, I mean, but then you got Inside Out. Like, I really feel for not only Riley but her parents in that movie, and like
that feel real feels, okay? Real feels. So, okay, the thing is, injecting her eyes, like...
Yeah, she stuck a needle in her eye and pulled some...
They have to mention the eyes again, so that plays into the story.
Oh.
They didn't mention the color this time. They didn't mention the piercing sea blue eyes that she had to pierce.
She pierced her piercing eyes.
Oh, okay. I thought the story was about Jenny's eyes. I thought it was a love story. Okay, it's fine.
She would then leave them in a bath of warm water overnight after sewing them back up. Soon, her process to create them was discovered at 34 years old, in which she altered the clones to look 20. Because she could communicate with them, she gave them words to look out for before hanging herself. The words were, "Rejoice, end of accusations." Soon after, there was a broadcast on Pokemon TV caused by Janest L's ghost. These words were on screen. "Rejoice, end of accusations. You are all sisters and working with the police force, and your name is Jennifer, or Jenny for short. L." What? After this, the clones seemed to be brainwashed into becoming Officer Jenny, and there was one failed subject along the way, thrown off a mountain because by accident, Janest had used a male Pokemon, and the failed clone had age stages. However, would stop when it looked 20. It was a young boy with light blue tinted purple hair, taken in by a family and almost forced into marrying a girl.
Oh my god, I know who they're talking about.
His name was James.
Oh my god.
And he was the James in Team Rocket.
Oh my god.
The story is... Why? What?
Was that the ending?
That's the end.
The fuck? Okay, so, like, I feel like they were drunk and stoned.
And a child.
And they were like, dude, like, James and Jenny look so similar.
Well, I mean, I guess their hair color is kind of similar in the fact that they're both on the color wheel. Like purple and teal are both on the color wheel. Like
on the color wheel. So that whole story was written to make that one point that they could have said in a sentence.
And why?
Oh, James and Gemini look really similar.
And wait, what? So this sadistic lady made a bunch of clones of herself because she liked being immoral, and then when she was about to get caught, she brainwashed all her clones into becoming police officers who are actually really good people. For the most Officer Jennies are, even the ones that are really aggressive and angry or really incompetent, are still good people.
Yeah.
So like, why? What? So she what?
I don't even. I can't like that. I'm so sorry we wasted all of your time. Holy shit.
And
oh
I'm sorry to have wasted yours. I guess before we close out, I'm wondering, earlier we mentioned that some of the Pokemon that they chose to give her in the anime, because that's pretty much the only time we get to see the character, is kind of weird. Growlithe makes sense. But what about the other ones? So I'm wondering, who would you have given her if you were in charge of developing the character?
See, I think Growlithe is such a perfect match for that.
I would still give her a Growlithe.
I think they were spot on with that because if you look at a police officer, they are walking around with a fucking bald eagle or a tiger or something like that.
That would be crazy.
Right? Like, it just wouldn't make sense. But, like, I could see them, I don't know, like, I could see them with, like, a Voltorb. Like to throw like for smoke bombs and shit.
Sure.
Like any Pokemon that resembles a weapon or a dog.
Maybe the sword, like the sword Pokemon, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I could totally see that. I mean, they don't make a gun Pokemon for obvious reasons, but you know.
I like the idea of like a Noctowl. A lot of the police officers in the video games had Hoots, but I could see Officer Jenny with a Noctowl or a Pidgeot. Pidgeot's so noble, you know?
Yeah.
Regal. Machamp, because they're so ubiquitous with police officers in Pokemon.
I could still see Jenny running around with some trebushes and just throwing them at people. Here you go, 'cause you're trash!
Clean up the garbage. Also, Lucario. I could see her having a Lucario. Like, that really fits.
Yeah, because Lucario is very much dog-like, and he's a fighting type, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
So I could totally see that working for the benefit. Like, I could also see maybe a Marowak. I could see a Marowak.
Sure.
You know, same type of Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, fighting types. I could totally see with, law enforcement. Any of those typings would benefit them. And, like, there are the firefighter Jennies, and those would obviously be water types, and the Ranger Jennies, I could see them have, like a sheepdog type of Pokemon. I mean, there's all kinds of Pokemon, but, like, some of the ones that they did have were strange, I'll admit,
Yeah.
Like, the Swan, I don't really, like, was he going to do peck people to death? Like, me.
So where do we stand on Officer Jenny as a character?
Well, to keep track of all those kids running around without parents, I think they're pretty much going to fucking need her.
I think she's a stronger character than Nurse Joy. I mean, with respect to the writing and the development and design. I criticize the anime a lot. She's not the strongest character, but with respect to anime throwaway characters, she's definitely one of the better. She's not a throwaway character. She's got personality, and I think it's cool how they are able to vary the personality among the different Officer Jennies and still have it feel like an Officer Jenny. Like, there's still a common thread throughout all of them.
Right, like, not all police officers are the same, and it's nice that they have someone with a personality in Pokemon. God forbid,
Yeah, I gotta say, she's a pretty alright character. She's better than Tracy.
I mean, I think that she is a reliable character. She is, she's the representation that there is good and bad in the Pokemon universe, and that there is discipline, and that there is laws and rules. She is the embodiment of those concepts. And I think in general, I like how they give different personalities for Jennies. They're not all super nice. They're not all super mean. they're people. They're separate people that look exactly like other people. So, like, I don't know. I like how they put slightly more thought into Jenny than they did with Joy.
Yeah. And next episode of the podcast, we are going to be delving into this world of law and enforcement even deeper as returning guest host Justin Addison joins us yet again to talk about Looker and the international police. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to get a lot more technical in the game canon and the world of Pokemon legislation. Hopefully. I mean, we haven't recorded the episode yet, but that's where I foresee the episode going.
Maybe you'll come up with another fan theory.
Maybe. Or maybe you just jinxed us, you sadistic fuck.
Guess we'll have to tune in and find out.
Thank you so much for coming back, Briana. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope you get to come back again soon.
Oh, I definitely plan on it. I'm looking forward to talking about more aspects of the Pokemon universe, and I want to get into the movies too, so you guys will have that to look forward to.
Oh yeah, movies are always fun to cover. If you'd like to hear more, in the meantime, between this episode and the next one, I have 2 other podcast series that you can listen to. One of them is called Fair Point Podcast, and the other one is called Fair Enough Podcast, because it's not Fair Point, but it's fair enough. We cover a wide array of topics on those podcasts. We have a wide array of guest hosts. A lot of them you may be familiar with, and I really encourage you to please check out my other shows. I guarantee there will be episodes you like. And if you listen to Silph Radio, you should know that specific topics might surprise you, what we end up talking about. So, I mean, I even enjoy the very few times early on in the series of the podcast that Craig made me talk about sports, because I don't like sports at all. But that's why I was able to make the episode fun for those who don't like sports. So please give them a listen.
And if you're constantly online like I am, you want to check out our Facebook too. Nathan's always posting interesting things about what's coming up, and there's some really cool fan art on there, so you definitely have to check us out on Facebook.
Absolutely. I love Pokemon fan art. Send me some. I'll share your fan art. Like, I'll credit you, whatever. Like, I love great Pokemon fan art. And also, don't forget to reach out to us on any of these. We have a subreddit, r/Silph Radio. We're on Twitter. That's at Fairpoint Pod, like Fairpoint Podcast. It's just easier to keep one Twitter account, at Fairpoint Pod. And if there's something you want to hear us talk about, or if you want to weigh in on an upcoming episode topic before we record, you have plenty of opportunities to. And as we've been saying, we want you to send us your Pokemon teams and your original character stories. It's really inspiring to me that this podcast has inspired other people to create Pokemon characters. That's like the coolest thing I've ever heard. And I would love to hear more of you share your teams and backgrounds with us. We would love to share it with our other listeners. And I get the feeling they love hearing it.
And we all feed off each other. So please keep sending in your ideas and your thoughts. We'd love to hear it.
I think that's it for another episode of Silph Radio. I had a lot of fun. Thank you, Briana.
I'm always happy to be here. I'm so grateful for this podcast because this is the only place that some of us get to talk about what we love. So, keep listening.
Please do. We've got more episodes coming soon. I hope you like what you've been hearing. If you have, leave us a rating or a review wherever you listen. I can't express how much that helps. And if you want more like this, go to www.secretroommultimedia.com. That's secretroommultimedia.com. There's lots of podcasts, comics, music, all from myself, Craig, Briana, and the other great minds here on this podcast. So please check it out. Until next time, from the Secret Room, I'm Nathan K.
And I'm Briana Joy.
If you're going to break the law, I'll just say we don't condone breaking the law.
I got nothing.